Namaste. Welcome to Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam for the Kaivalya Marga class. We are studying the fire element, or we have just begun to study the fire element. Let us begin this class with 3 Oms, so it helps us become mindful, helps our mind to get into a state of focused attention, and opens the doors to learning. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om. So in the last class, there was an inspiration to share the very foundation, to explore the reason and the very foundation of this search, this path to Kaivalya. Because we were in the foothills of Arunachala mountain. We are still in the foothills of that mountain. And in today's class, we will climb that mountain and learn, get a bird's eye view of what we are going to cover in detail in the following 2 or 3 weeks, depending on how it goes and how much depth the topic needs. Because when I sat in these temples, it was with great prayer. I would fast, I would pray for guidance. Then when I sit and speak into the camera, it was extempore, because it brought out what I always believed. Because that was the fundamental teaching of Baba. Speak from your heart. So I allowed that to happen in front of the camera, because that to me was divinely guided. And so I used that as a basis to launch this learning. So each temple, it was slightly different. And we will just take it as it came to me. That's how I know how to share these things. I want to keep it very, very real. And each of these, though I call it the Kaivalya Marga class, it's more of a satsang. I want you to feel the energy and be with me, and together we begin to contemplate and think on these lines. Today is January 28th, 2021. So for those of you who are seeing this recording much later, may not tune into what I'm going to say right now, but it doesn't matter. Today, for those of you who are tuned in right now, is in South India a very, very auspicious and a holy day. And strangely, it is connected to the fire element. So I feel that just as we took the first step, the very second day turned out to be a wonderful sign. What is that special day today? Of course, it is a full moon. So that in itself is beautiful and special. But in deep south, in Tamil Nadu, they celebrate this day and they call there's a huge festival. Huge will not really explain the amount of importance people in Tamil Nadu give to this particular spiritual occasion. It is called Thai Pusam. Thai is the name of the month that we are currently in. It's considered a very auspicious month. And when the moon comes into the Pusha nakshatra, today it has just passed out in US here, it has passed out of that nakshatra at this point. But when it is in this, just passing out. So when it is in this nakshatra, Pusha nakshatra, then it is called Tai Pusham. So the moon is in Pusha nakshatra in the month of Tai, and it is full moon. So it is in all its glory. And so there is a very special astrological significance associated with that particular time. So like this, you have Shivratri, which is not in full moon, of course, but so all of these religious occasions that we call religion today were deeply spiritual at one point. And all of these are linked to the lunar phases. So they're not fixed on a date in Western calendar. So you can't celebrate Thaipusham, let's say in 2022 on January 28. It depends on when the moon is. It could be plus or minus few days here and there. So the story goes that this was the day in the Puranas where the son of Shiva, Lord Muruga, or Lord Kartikeya, or Lord Subramanya, he has many names, he was given the spear by his mother to fight the demon, Surapadman. Of course, he did not kill the demon. He transformed him. Into something else. We'll come to all that. I don't want to get carried away and get diverted because we'll run short of time. But the point here is she gave him the spear. That is the key here. She gave him the spear. In our approach to Kaivalya Marga, when we study the fire element, which is in the center of the body, the navel chakra, the Manipuraka chakra, the fire element is compared to the commander-in-chief of the army. It digests the food, distributes the energy. We learn more about this as we go along. And so that center, the Manipuraka, is governed by Lord Muruga. In other words, he has 6 heads. 6 heads represents the 6 chakras. The spear that was given to him represents the spinal cord. So the entire spinal cord gets a blessing today when you meditate and when you pray to this son of Shiva. The concept and the meaning behind it and the energy of Murugan begins to bless and nourish all the 6 chakras. All the cleansing happens at many different levels, psychological, spiritual, physical level. Because these chakras are what keeps us alive and makes us experience everything around us, because they are all linked to the 5 elements. 5 elements are linked to consciousness, 4 states of consciousness, and thus you have creation outside and inside, right? So the spinal cord is where the 6 heads of Murugan lies, and the spear that he holds in his hand he holds a spinal cord. In other words, he is in charge of these 6 chakras. So in Deep South, they place him in between Devi and Shiva. Why he is in between? Because Devi is in the Kundalini down there. Shiva is up here in Sahasrara. He sits in the middle and brings them together. In other words, he brings the mother and father together. So the very symbolic and yet very powerful representation of what is going on inside. For those who want to see it that way. I like to see it that way. It makes perfect sense to me. And I've been blessed with experiences that has confirmed this again and again and again. So today is a very holy day. And so I do want to end this session by a visit to the Skandashram of Ramana Maharishi. Skanda is another name for Lord Subramanya. And Ramana Maharishi, for whatever reason, named the cave that he did tapas on, where he did his austerities, he named that cave. He gave that place a very tiny ashram. He gave that place the name of Skandashram. So we will visit that ashram as well. But in the meantime, let us pay a homage. Let me see where my remote is. Okay, there you go. Let me pay homage to the, let's pay homage to the temple and proceed from there. This is the Arunachala temple, the temple of Shiva. So as you enter this, incidentally, the very first temple that you come across is that of Lord Muruga or Lord Kartikeya or Lord Subramanya. That particular spot is more relatively in recent history, where he appeared and gave darshan to a wonderful saint. So when we come to that temple in the next class, we will take that a little more look and learn a little bit about that place. Arunagiri another, that was the great saint who received his self-realization, actualization and darshan of Lord Muruga at that place. So it's a very historic, very beautiful, very powerful place. So with that reverence, I want to take you back to the hill of Arunachala, go up the steps, and then I found a beautiful place where I was inspired to share some thoughts. So let us take a listen to that video, and then we will try and get our thoughts together around it. So in today's class, you will get a bird's eye view of what the Agni element is all about. There might be things in that talk you may not have heard me say before. Some of you may be very familiar if you have listened to my other talks on Brahmarpanam, Brahma Haved mantra and prayers and so on, about the food we eat and everything. So don't worry. I'm going to dissect that particular talk in terms of points as we go along, and we go into detail and learn completely about this fire element that is so vital for our very existence on this planet. So off to Tiruvannamalai and back to Arunachala mountain. So here I am after speaking the initial, sharing initial thoughts. I started walking up towards the hill. It is exactly how it is right now. It's so quiet. As I'm climbing this beautiful hill, an old man, a very saintly, full of love, he said, "Where are you going, sir? Come sit next to me." He sat, he made me sit. He talked wonderful philosophy. He said, "I'm a wandering monk." He's been wandering for 23 years from place to place all over India. It was such a pleasure meeting with him, sitting at his feet for a bit. Of course, I exchanged a lot with him, and then I started moving towards Skandashram. As you can see, there are few groups of people in small little groups undertaking this short pilgrimage up to the Skandashram. So now you have a well-laid path. There was a time when this was just wild forest, and Ramana, as a young child, Bhagavan Ramana, because he attained the Godhead, as a young child he would trek this path through the wilderness, discovered a cave up the hill, meditate there. His mother would come up with food to feed him. And slowly I found a place, a very quiet place that called out to me. So welcome to the KYG class. Namaste. This mountain, a billion years ago, was believed to be pure fire.
and then slowly cool down to what it is today. And therefore this is called the Agni or fire, the Tejas element, as one of the 5 important elements that comprise this universe, that causes this creation, that are the building blocks, if you will, of our bodies, of our minds, of our everything around that you see, the trees, the plants, the mountains, the oceans, and everything. So today we speak about the fire element. There are 2 sense organs that are connected to the fire element. Out of the 5, we covered earth and we have covered water. So one sense organ, which is purely dedicated to action, there is really no intelligence in that organ as such, quote unquote, is the feet. And therefore, the physical sense organ that is associated with fire is feet, because below your feet there is fire. Think of it as when you do exercise, when you do jumping jacks, when you run, when you walk, what happens to the body? The body gets warm. What is the cause of that? Exercise. In other words, your feet. So when you work with your feet, no matter what it is, cycling, running, trekking, jogging, and all of that, your body tends to become warm. So feet is the physical organ that is linked to the fire. And then the organ that has some intelligence in it, the organ of perception as it is called, the Jnana Indriya, those are the eyes. So the eyes and feet are the 2 sense organs that are associated with fire element in your body. Why eyes? Eyes is because you see. You see when there is light. You see when there is light, flame, heat, all of that go together in one category. In darkness, your eyes don't function. You don't see anything. So eyes are associated with light, Jyoti. Now it is very important for us to understand that this fire element is predominantly located in the center of your body, right here. The digestive fire, as it is called. I hope you can see it. Right here. This is the digestive fire. And let me see if I got it correct. Okay. This is the fun when you record it on the fly, if you will. You got to keep adjusting something, and I have to keep my focus on all. Keeps me mindful. It's part of the training. So the center of the body has a fire element. That itself explains to you how significant is the fire element in our body. In the Gita, Krishna tells Arjuna that in all living beings, I am the digestive fire. So the digestive fire is what keeps us alive. The heart beats, yes. There is Vayu going on, yes. But the cause of all that is the digestive fire. As long as we are able to digest food properly, as long as the fire is not too much or too less but burns steadily, know that you are healthy and you can live as long as you desire. So there is a whole lifestyle that goes around maintaining this digestive fire. When the external fire cooks the food and when we eat it, the internal fire has very little work to do. Think about that in your meditation today. Ask yourself this one question. What am I feeding my fire so it will burn brightly? This feeding of food into the fire, Brahma, Arpanam, because this fire is Brahman. So Brahma, Arpanam, Brahma, Havihir, I give ghee or saturated fat into the food, into my mouth. Because when you put the ghee into the flame, butter, the flame burns. It's a fuel. So it's good. Brahmagno, the Agni, the fire itself is Brahman. The person who's offering is Brahman, and so on and so forth. We say that prayer and then we offer food into the mouth. Now, if I eat junk food and I somehow miraculously think that if I say this prayer or this chant, somehow it's going to help, I'm sorry, I don't buy into that. This fire is a divine flame because Krishna associated himself with it. This is the fire that keeps us alive. So when we meditate upon this fire, we ask question, what is the food, what is the fuel that I put into this fire? What is the food that goes in that keeps this fire burning? It's an important question we need to ask ourselves. Because when we sit in meditation and say, my mind was disturbed, I'm not able to concentrate, I'm not able to meditate, it is because this fire, this flame inside, think of it as a candle flame, is flickering. It's either too much or too less. And that is not going to help you be mindful and experience that stillness. It is just impossible. The way I learned it, the way I have practiced it, it's impossible. And therefore this divine flame has to be respected. This temple, this body is a temple. I don't know how else to say how much more important it is. I don't mean to throw a religious spin on this. It's not religion at all. I think it's deep spirituality. I'm not asking you to do anything out of your way, but just treat this body with respect. And if this body has to be beautifully carved, beautifully shaped, and in good stead till the last breath of your life, then you have to serve, maintain this body. And an important component of that maintenance is food. So if the external fire does all the cooking, then when I eat that kind of food, 2 times a day, 3 times a day, the internal fire slowly begins to die down. Why? Because it doesn't have any work to do. The external fire has already digested the food. And that is why eating raw fruits, raw vegetables, green leaves, berries, nuts, all of this, when you eat it, it has to be digested. Guess what digests it? The fire within. Think about that and slowly begin to incorporate food that will help maintain the digestive fire. No matter what your age, no matter what your illness, no matter how serious it is, trust me, if this fire comes back to life, then all those diseases will slowly go away. Whether it is a little rash on your skin, whether it is a cold that you are having, whether it is an incessant cough, whether it is allergies, or whether it is something more serious like diabetes or heart problems, or even more like cancer and so on. All of these are symptoms of the imbalance of the 5 elements. But the focus in those 5 elements is the center. You have earth and water on the one side, the lower 2 chakras, then you have fire, then you have wind, and you have space. And therefore in these 5, the center, your eyes always goes to the center of a picture, right? And therefore the center, the body language is fire is placed in the center in our creation. Everything revolves around the sun, fire, Agni. Rudra is fire. And therefore, if that is respected, if that is kept alive, everything else falls into place. So when you meditate today, think of your eyes. In Hatha Yoga, there is an exercise called Trataka, a Kriya, where you focus your eyes steadily on a flame. This is a great way to bring balance in your fire element. Apart from eating and food, right? That's a whole lot more discussion, so I'm going to skip that for now. Eyes, while meditating, can be and should be focused at a spot. Closing eyes fully becomes darkness. Remember, whether the eye is open or closed is very important from the fire element point of view. That is why they say don't open your eyes and meditate, because now there's too much fire. There's distraction, right? You close your eyes, there is zero fire. Darkness. So tamas slips in. What do you mean by tamas? Sleep and sloth. So the consciousness slips back into earth, the dark corners of your unconscious mind, subconscious mind, and you go to sleep. So neither fully awake nor fully asleep in the twilight times, dawn, dusk. These are the times ideal for meditation. And why? Along with those times, if my eyes also reflect the time, neither fully awake nor fully asleep, but twilight zone. So you focus on the tip of your nose is one practice. You can focus in between the eyebrows. That's one practice. Or you can keep a little flame in a dark room and keep your eyes focused on that. The reason why I wouldn't suggest this or this right away is it could cause headache. So you have to be very careful in training yourself. If you have a little squint or you have power in your eyes, in the sense you use reading glasses or glasses in general, I wouldn't suggest you jump to it right away. Keep a flame. Stare at the flame. Look at the bottom of the flame. Study the flame. The dark blue, the deep red, the orange, and the brilliant golden yellow. Study the flame, study the aura on the flame. Keep going from down to the top, down to the top. And occasionally close your eyes trying to picture the flame inside. And then once again open your eyes and focus on the flame. When you focus on this, the fire inside is stimulated. And that practice alone will once again regenerate aging process. When I say regenerate, I mean you will learn to age gracefully. Your digestive power will once again come up. All kinds of memory issues, memory loss, confusion, doubt, lack of decision making, and all of that goes away when your eye stays focused on the flame. Just 8 minutes minimum, 8 to 10 minutes. And then when we combine it with breathing and so on, it becomes you're bringing in other elements. Because the flame has to be kept alive, you bring in air into that. So we will learn this. But we have to learn it steadily, focus on each element, meditate on those elements, not once or twice. It takes days and weeks, and then incorporate that into your everyday life. What are the things that I am seeing that instigates me, makes me angry, makes me emotional? I know then that is fire element. What are the things that I am speaking that are harsh, that are hurtful, that are fiery in nature? Am I screaming? Is my volume very high and loud? It's the fire. Am I caught up in rage and anger many times? That is fire. So how do I tame all this fire element? Think of the fire element. What are the color choices? Bright red, bright green, all this is fire. Not that they're bad. I love red color and I love green. Look at the greenery. The tropics just reflect the sunlight. But not too much. Not too much. So, the way I share these lessons in Kaivalya meditation is to make you think, not spell it out for you necessarily, but just open avenues of thought. So in your meditation, you say, let me think about the fire element in my body. Where is it? It's here. What does it affect? My digestion, my health, the tone of my skin, the brightness in my eyes, the clarity in my thinking. All of this is reflected by one element in my body. How can I tame this element? How can I worship this element? How can I bring this element into my speech, into my thoughts, into my actions, into my body? And then guess where is Shiva? Is here in us as the fire. And so as I sit on this lap of Shiva, if you will, halfway up the hill, and this hill is dedicated to the fire element, the Agni Tattva. So it's such a great honor to be teaching it from the holy mountain of Arunachala. Thank you for watching. Meditate on the fire element. And may the fire within you guide you, light your path, and lead you along this never-ending journey of self-discovery, self-actualization. The search for Shiva begins and ends in Shiva consciousness.
Everything that I spoke that afternoon was completely inspired. It came to me with such clarity that I knew that this is being guided. So we will definitely use that as the basis and dig into each of these aspects that I spoke a little more in detail. I'm sure what I said there would have raised a lot more questions. Wait a minute, I can't have raw foods, or I cannot do this. What can I do what can I do as an alternative, and so on. There are so many questions that will come in Trataka. There'll be so many questions that's coming up. And is that all? Is there other ways to do it? Let us explore all of this in the next 2 or 3 weeks. It is in that learning that we will understand slowly but clearly and surely what is this element and how. Just like we understood or have begun to understand the earth and the water element. So I want to go back to the slide here, and in today's session just set some basis from what we heard right now. First of all, what is Agni Tattva? What is this Agni? When we say fire, what does it really mean? If there are children watching, they'll say, Mom, fire, where is fire in my belly? It's not, what does that mean by fire in the belly? So, since I spoke so much about fire in the belly, let me explain that. The digestive juices, the acids, the transformation power, there is only one of these elements have a power to transform an object from one chemistry to another very quickly and very powerfully and very visibly, right? And that is the fire. Fire, when it burns, what happens? It transforms. So how does your food gets transformed into energy? How does your food gets transformed into waste, fecal matter, that the gross matter is passed out of the body, the energy alone is retained and sent to the blood stream and so on, right? How does that happen? Where does it happen? It happens in the belly, in the pit of the stomach. That means the acids first transform the body and so on and so forth. So that entire process that happens, the transformation process that happens, the redistribution of the life force that happens, all of that happens. That element that is in charge there, the element that controls and monitors this, is called the fire element. Why it's called fire? Because of the acids mainly. Acid is very fiery in nature, right? You put something in acid, it burns it out. In other words, it completely consumes it. So that acid is there in our body too. There are bacteria, the good bacteria, that once again eat off all the bad bacteria that comes along with food and transforms it, right? That's why you have probiotics and yogurt and so on and so forth. So there's a lot of fire-related organisms, the fire element itself that is here, that is responsible for health. And so we say that this is Agni Tattva. So when in yoga and in Vedanta, generally when we say Agni or fire, what do we mean? So here are some of the things that we mean, just to make clear that you and I are on the same page. Fire is, of course, the straightforward meaning of Agni. Agni is Sanskrit word for the word fire. But when we think of fire, we think of a fire that comes out of a matchstick. The little flame that comes on a candle is an element of fire, we say, right? We say the trees on the hill are on fire. So for us, the idea of fire is logs of wood burning or something burning. That is, of course, definitely fire. But there's more to it in yoga terms. So the other word for Agni is Tejas. Tejas Tattvatmikaye, Tejas, Agni, all of these mean the same element. Okay, so don't literally take Agni as Agni alone, as fire alone. So here I'm going to put some of these words, and there could be more, but I just put some for you to understand that when we say Agni, we mean all of this. In general, first that understanding has to happen. So fire, electricity is fire. Electricity is drawn from water. So where was the water element below the fire element? So how do we take consciousness up through the water, pull it up. How, when we say the Ojas Shakti, the energy of the yogi has to move from down up, the seminal juices have to go upwards, the Ojas Shakti has to go up, and all of that. What does it all mean? It means the energy from the water has to be pulled up. What is that? That is electricity. Electricity, similar to that. When we say, we're calling it prana, but prana is a lot more than just electricity. Electricity is like that. So from water, fire is electricity. For fire is inherent in water. So from water comes fire. From fire comes water as well. Correct? How? On a hot sunny afternoon, it's extremely hot that afternoon. It is extremely hot the next afternoon. So after 2 days, what happens? The water from the earth has gone up because of the heat, and then it comes down as what? Water. What caused the rains to come? The sun. Fire causes water, and then from water again you can pull out fire. So it works both ways. So this is the process of yoga. This is the process of Sri Chakra that we are learning. This is the process of spiritual path. From inside out or from outside in. From water comes fire or from fire comes water. It doesn't matter. They are interlinked. That's what we have to understand at this point. And since we are moving from down up, why are we moving from down up? Because earth is what we relate to. Matter is what we relate to. We see ourselves as body. I can touch my body. I can feel my body. And then everything else that I'm studying is going inside the body. So the Sri Chakra starts from the outside to inside, the path into the Sri Chakra. The path of yoga goes from the outside. Start with exercises, start with Hatha Yoga, then go to the breath, then go to the mind. In that process, you get more and more control over the more and more subtler elements. Earth, water, fire. So fire is also electricity in our body. The neurons that fire signals, all of that is electricity. The electrical impulses in the brain, it's fire. But all of that is linked from here. This is the center, the capital of fire element in the body. It's all over, just like water is all over the body, but the center, the capital of water is in the region of the sexual organs. It's like that. So predominantly situated. Anyway, fire, electricity, electromagnetism, plasma, then you have light. There is no light without fire. In other words, sunlight, the core of sun is what? There's hydrogen there. It's burning. It's a burning ball of flame, if you will, right? So from that comes light. So light is also called Agni. Light is also called Tejas, Agni. They're used interchangeably when you read scriptures and Vedanta. When you read some of Adi Shankara's works, or anybody, when they refer to senses, when they come to these elements, they might refer to it in all these aspects. So you got to understand that Agni just doesn't mean only fire. Heat, warmth in the body, all of that is related to Agni. It's a product of fire, but it is kind of used as a metaphor for fire itself. Okay? Radiation, life force. So the main prana, this is not prana as one of the 5 vayus. When we understand vayu, we'll understand this better. But what I'm talking here is the life force, the main prana shakti. It's like New York and New York City, right? How can you have New York and New York? Yeah, one is a state, one is a city. Similarly, you have this prana, which is the life force. Then you have prana as vayu also. So understand they are 2 different things. So again, when you read text, don't get confused between what prana are they referring to. So there are texts that will refer to the main prana. There are some parts of the text that will refer to the vayu as a prana, right? Prana as the vayu and prana as the mahaprana. So the entire Kundalini Shakti is referred to as prana, but not as vayu there. This is life force. So that life force is sustained, nurtured, and maintained and distributed in the body predominantly by the fire element. So this fire element, this understanding was conveyed to us through the Puranas as the son of Shiva. Because the chakras, Shiva created the sun from what? From the center eye. From the ball, from the fiery ball of fire it created. So it is said that Lord Kartikeya was so this ball of fire, if you will, this ball that he created, this egg, if you will, if you can call it that way. But this energy, he said, this is the child. So he gave it to the god of fire himself, it's, as it says in Puranas. So he gave to the god of fire himself, so only you can hold it. You hold it. And when the god of fire held it, he couldn't hold it. So this Agni Tattva has even more implications than simply being spreading all of that. There is a lot more implications to understand this Murugan energy in us, right? So that is what the life force is. It is far more powerful than ordinary fire. But we will understand first the ordinary fire, then this Agni Tattva in our body, and then the more detailed aspect of it. So the god Agni, he couldn't hold it. He said, oh my God, it's too hot. Then the god of wind said, I will blow and I'll keep it cool a little bit if I can help. So they both carried these, and the story goes that they couldn't hold it. They offered it to the Ganges. It fell into the river. It went into the banks of in a grass, Sharavana grass. The child was born. Sharavana Bhava. That's his name. Sharavana Bhava. 6. Again 6. 6 chakras. So everything relates and comes back to this. So he was, because they dropped him, he got split into 6. He was nurtured by 6, and so on and so forth. And Devi Parvati comes and hugs him, and he becomes one. These stories has deep implications on what is going on in our body. So right now these elements are separate. They're working in different directions, like 6 different children. They're not becoming a cohesive whole. They're not working in harmony in our system. So who can bring them into cohesive? Shiva is meditating. He created Lord Muruga and he closed his eyes. So he's not going to tell you what to do. The Parvati, the divine Shakti inside, the Kundalini, when she arises, she begins to embrace these 6 chakras. And when she begins to touch each of these chakras, then like Murugan, this energy that was 6 different flames, extremely powerful, unmanageable, comes and forms into one cohesive whole as a child. And then that child becomes the commander-in-chief of the army and keeps destroying all demons. Why is Murugan considered commander-in-chief? Why is he always like a warrior? If you go to one of the most important portals, and again there are 6 very powerful portals in South India, each one of them on a hill. Like each center, you have to climb to go to that center. In other words, you have to work hard to go to that center. Of course, these days you can drive up and all that. We have missed the boat, but that's a different story. But you have to climb, go through jungles and climb in those days to go to these temples. It was a sadhana by itself. Similar that for every chakra, for it to become activated, for it to become clear, for that deity in that chakra to open up and that energy to come into you, you have to work very hard. It's like climbing a hill. A lot of hard work, arduous work is done. So that is how the story. So in Tiruchendur, one of these 6 temples, it's a very powerful place. He is a warrior. None will dare oppose him. Now you might think, oh, this is just religious stories. Not all of you. Some of you might. And it's okay. I used to do that when I was very young. I was like, come on, give me a break. All these are ridiculous stories people are falling for. But then the tsunami came, right? In our times, a few years ago. Now, this place where the temple is in South India, it's on the seashore, right in the path of the tsunami, right in the path of tsunami. This temple is below sea level. This is the only temple that's not on a hill. It might have been at some point, I guess. I don't know. So this is actually built, the entire temple is built below sea level. Now, very beautiful temple, right? Architecture and everything, geometry and all of that. You can't beat that kind of architecture, truly. Anyway, so were these architects not thinking wisely? Excuse me. What were they thinking when they built a temple below sea level? Were they thinking, oh, sea cannot do anything? Or what was it magic that they used there? I say magic very loosely. Please don't take it seriously. What was it that they used there that they were sure that the sea will not affect the temple? Not then, not it's more than 1,000 years now. Okay. The eye of that Murugan, the eye of the main deity, Lord Kartikeya, who was in the form ready for war. He is the warrior now, and he defeats all the demons. In other words, all viruses that go into the system, everything that troubles you, he is in charge. That's why I said in that hill, and I believe this. Okay, you might prove me wrong or right. It's not a matter of argument for me. It's a matter of my very core belief that if this fire is held steady and burns brightly, no demon, no viruses, no bacteria, nothing can harm your body. So what is your job? Is just to maintain this fire, because this is that Lord Muruga. He is that commander in chief. So he is ready to fight. He is armed. He's got the spear from his mother. And as the story goes, right? So in that temple, they celebrate that warrior Murugan for health and everything. It's a very powerful place, a healing place. A lot of healing energy is there. Powerful healing energy. But you don't experience that if you go and spend an afternoon or 1 or 2 days like that. You have to go there and spend 3, 4 months, 5 months, 6 months and stay there, do tapas and austerities and all for one to really understand this. Because that's how these places were meant to be, whether it is Kedarnath or whether it is Tiruchendur in Tamil Nadu. Okay? So, or Kailasa. Anyway, so here the temple was not touched by that water. Which water? The tsunami. The wave did not come into the temple, did not affect the temple. How? Just like Kedarnath, right? One boulder came and protected. So these are portals, they're not meant to be destroyed. So what was it that protects? Now, as they built this, because they discovered that portal and they built around that portal, when they built the deity, they built it in such precision, the entire temple is built in such precision, that the eye of the deity, the eye of Lord Subramanya, the main deity. Now, these temples have so many sanctum sanctorums to go to pass, corridors to pass. So they have layers that you go through to go to the inside core, just like Sri Chakra. Each of these temples are not built. And so each king came and built it more and more, bigger and bigger. But each one of them took care to say one thing. What was that? That the eye goes right across all the courtyards in the temple, and the main door that faces the sea, the keyhole of that, is in exactly the same height as the eye. So the belief was, is, and forever will be, that the eye can see through that keyhole out into the sea, and he'll control that sea. It is more than just a blind belief. First of all, it's a marvel, architectural marvel to do that, right? If you take a laser and shoot it from that eye level, it will go right through that keyhole of the main Gopuram, which is at least, I don't know, I might be wrong, but at least 100 meters away. So how they did that? Well, of course, it's an architectural marvel. But then more than that, there is the energy that they were tapping into in that particular place, the cosmic energy, which revealed itself there as this energy that can tame the water. And that was proved when tsunami came. So these are the marvels of these energy principles. So when the Puranas talk of these deities and gods and goddesses, there is, of course, symbolism, a deep symbolism. But it appears very unreal and only purely symbolic to us, and we become very intelligent all of a sudden to say, okay, that's symbolic. I got it. All right, let's move on from beyond forms and all these rituals and all of that. We become suddenly very intelligent. We fail to realize that we are not able to grasp beyond the it appears very symbolic because the events are so far back. In the very beginning of creation of all of these happens, these energies of Shiva and Shakti and all of that manifested themselves. So it is extremely unreal for us at this point, especially in our time and age, in the way we engage the rest of the time in the consciousness that we are. We can't even understand that. So we are trying to climb the ladder back through symbolism. The energy of Lord Muruga in the Manipura is a very real energy. It is a very real energy. So we can approach this fire within us through many ways, through the path of devotion, through the path of yoga, and of course through the path of great discipline and lifestyle. This is what we are going to understand and study as we move on. Now, I want to definitely show you Skandashram today. So I am not going to the next slide. And I believe the other one is about 6 or 7 minutes. Nevertheless, we will see that and then end the class today. I hope you are excited. This is one of my favorite elements, if you will. Not simply because it's about Shiva's son and so on, the story. That's, of course, we all have our own favorite forms and of God and our favorite gurus and so on. That's one side of the picture. But more importantly, when I got the idea in the spiritual path, in the yoga path, and I'll share with you these teachers who came to Baba's ashram, who showed me, one of them especially, Appaya by name, who showed me that one of the most important element that you can focus on and begin to control is the fire element in the pit of your stomach. If you learn to harness that energy, and he was from one of these temples, he lived there. That's what he told me. He was from Payani, another temple of Lord Kartikeya. So he said, if you learn to control that energy, all the other chakras will stay under control. But not like magic, but it'll become more easy for you to approach. So this is one which requires a lot of discipline. So imagine if Lord of Fire, Agni, couldn't hold that little ball even before Murugan was born. In other words, that has so much energy. When we talk of sense control and taming the water energy, this becomes a lot more challenge. But it is a divine path. There is nothing to be afraid of when I say this is a powerful thing, because it's within us, right? You and I can breathe it. It's not killed you or me. But if we are able to nurture it, protect it, be grateful for this divine flame that is within us, and we begin to adjust our lifestyle so nothing insults this flame, then wonders and only wonders await us. Having said that, let us go back to this divine guru, Ramana, who spent so many years in the age of 16 and 17 when you and I was thinking of joining Bollywood, or it's not known as Bollywood then. I think it is called the Pune Film Institute of Pune or something. I just wanted to rebel against my parents and all this religious stuff and go somewhere exactly opposite. And that was where I was thinking, and ended up in Baba's ashram. But I was thinking of doing that, whereas Ramana at the age of 16 was deeply involved in austerities in that sacred hill, which is known so much for its healing herbs today. So let's go there and get a glimpse, because photography was not allowed. There were too many people and they were all meditating, and I didn't want to put my camera on their faces. So bear with me that you will just get a glimpse of the Skandashram and the Virupaksha cave where he did tapas, just the outside part of it. All right, let's go there. Of course, there is no voiceover except for a little bit here. Today we get the darshan of the temple as well.
City of Tiruvannamalai, the holy temple.
I sat there on the top of that hill for an hour or so, just thinking I'm sitting on Shiva. There are hundreds of medicinal plants, healing herbs, and this is the Skandashram. Now, of course, you see there are nice plants and garden around, but it wasn't so when Ramana was here. It's a very small place. People from all over the world come there to meditate. And to the left is that. At home now is the cave as the camera turns. This is a place where he meditated. It's a very tiny cave inside, very beautiful, very powerful. Carved into that huge rock that you see. So this is the Skandashram. Many of these people spend months there. And then on the other side of the hill from Skandashram, you start walking down about half a kilometer to another cave where he meditated. It's a relatively steep downhill walk. Far away from traffic and noise and pollution. This is such a heavenly place. And now we're near the Virupaksha cave. It was extremely warm inside the cave. This is just a rock. It's around, the path goes around this. Right now they have a hut that's built around it and they've made it more approachable. And you can't see the cave in this video because they don't allow photography. It's very strictly prohibited. And there inside that hall is the entrance to the cave. And of course, the path was strewn with these monkeys playfully trying to grab your bag or wanting some water to drink. As I began to walk back, I couldn't help but wonder what more secrets this mountain holds. Mother Earth holds in her bosom in this mountain. These rocks can tell us so much. If this mountain has cooled down over thousands and millions of years, what stories it has to tell us. And still feel that energy in that hill. Arunachala, the mountain that is Shiva. So when I left the ashram in 1994, I have to tell you this really short story before. I know we are a little past time, so bear with me. When we left in 1994, I told Maya there's one mountain I want to go. It's the Arunachala. Immediately, and we left within a few months after having left Puttaparthi. My in-laws came with me as well. This was way back in 1994, 5, I guess. And so we decided to climb and go right to the top of the hill. Now they don't allow anybody. There's police who will arrest you and charge you, and they put heavy fines because there's so many foreigners, and they don't want to get people going up there and getting into drugs or getting hurt and things like that. So now it's prohibited. Beyond the Skandashram, you can't go. But we went past that little gate in the Skandashram and went all the way up. And for whatever reason, both of us thought, oh, one bottle of water should be enough. It's not going to take so long. But then as we kept climbing, it became warmer and warmer and became very hot. So we left at 7:30 in the morning, and 5 hours later, we were still struggling. And by about 12 o'clock at noon, both of us were struggling and were at our very wits' end, but we still made it to the top. And there, in the midst of a cluster of rocks, a very small little cave was there. And just out of curiosity, Maya and I bent down to see what is inside that. I call it a cave, but it's just about 2 feet high and about 2 feet maybe wide, just 2 feet high, right? So we just carefully just bent down to see what was there. And then suddenly we heard a grunt said, "Hey!" like that, some song. Both of us jumped back thinking it was an animal of some kind. And then a very bony, dark, black hand came out and pushed a little cup with vibhuti and water. And with the finger, apparently had put vibhuti and water, so he pushed it out and mixed it with the finger and pushed it out to us. We couldn't see who it was. Still now we don't know who it is. But that water came out, and both of us were so thirsty because we had finished that little bottle of water. We just grabbed it, and she took a little bit, I took a little bit, and believe it or not, instantly, the whole tiredness and everything disappeared. It was magical. Completely. We were like, wow, I'm so fresh again. And then we kept it down and just bowed down from a distance because we didn't want to disturb the Siddha who was sitting there. This yogi was inside. And it just, even to this day, beats me. How can somebody sit there? So as we were coming down, we met a shepherd. And we asked him, who's that person? He says, oh, that person never comes out. Did you go? He doesn't like to get disturbed. I said, no, we didn't. But he gave us this. He said, you're very lucky to have got that from him. He doesn't like anyone coming there. And so the shepherds kind of protect that yogi and let him meditate there. And so it was an amazing experience. I asked, how does he sit inside? They said, we don't know. He's always there inside. We don't know what happens. And there's no way for a person to even sit straight. 2 feet by 2 feet. He's like this. Lost there. But anyway, I just wanted to share the story. It was such a fantastic experience. And then we felt very blessed. Of course, we came down. Ramana Ashram has changed so much now in the last 20, 25 years. A lot more facilities, amenities have come. And so it's a wonderful, wonderful place. Put that in your bucket list. and visit this place. And once you go to the hill, all that traffic and all that goes behind. So go past that and then enjoy this hill that is Shiva. So we will continue learning with the blessings of this divine energy of Shiva and his son, Lord Kartikeya. We'll study the fire element. Thank you for your patience. We'll end this class with 1 Om and 3 Shantis. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.